Let's talk about the train wreck that was the Suicide Squad now. All right. So I did not play the game, premise that. I seem to say that a lot, I've noticed. I'm talking about games that I don't play. Anyway, but I did not play the game because I'm cautiously optimistic about games. That's my reasoning. I'm sticking with that because I'm a smart spender with my money. Not really. You can see what I got behind me. I got a Steam Deck. I got all sorts of electronics. Anyway, I digress. So Suicide Squad came out last week to tons of negative press for the right reasons, but I would say it's not all bad. I know I'm going to contradict myself quite a bit in my take here, but I watched a couple reviews, more specifically SkillUp's review, because I trust him with a lot of information. And what I do when I watch people's reviews is I listen to what they have to say and I give my own opinion based on what I'm seeing and what I've heard from other reviewers, and I try to like mesh my own thing to it instead of just regurgitating their information. So again, I'm just prefacing that I had to watch some reviews to get my thoughts around what was really happening here. So my biggest question I asked when I was watching these reviews and watching footage for this game was, how did we go from the Arkham games to this? I just don't get it. I don't get it. Like, how did we go from this gritty, like super raw, grounded game? I mean, yeah, Batman's flying around, but it makes sense. He has a cape, and he's known for that in the movies and the comics. But how do we go from that to this flying around Borderlands-esque game that is the Suicide Squad? I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get how we got from this raw, gritty game, the Arkham series, to this ridiculous Borderlands copy with a Suicide Squad paint. I don't get it. I hate it. It looks awful. The game looks awful. Seeing all the numbers pop up on the screen, how colorful it is, how crazy it is, it just doesn't work. Like, I get it. Like the Suicide, I'm looking at my movies up here, so I get it. Like, I'm gonna pull this down. I get it. Like, look, okay, I got all the steelbook for movies, right? So this is the Suicide Squad, right? I get it. They're supposed to be fun, right? I like this Zack Snyder's Suicide, or whatever, the James Gunn, not Zack Snyder. I like James Gunn's Suicide Squad, right? It was great. And I understand it's supposed to be more fun and flamboyant. I understand that. That's the Suicide Squad. It just did not work in this game. So again, I don't get how we got from the Arkham games to this. That was my biggest question I asked. And then I don't understand why they made this a live service game. What is developers and studios and companies' obsession with everything needing to be live service? A game just being a simple, straightforward campaign on rails that's like 10 hours, 12 hours of really high quality gameplay and cutscenes is fine. They would have probably sold more copies, been more inclined to make DLC or things like that in the future to make the game longer, whatever, if they would have just focused on making it a more on-rails story, more focused on the story, because it's not a bad concept. Look, do I love the fact that they're killing the Justice League members? No, but I do think it's interesting, like an alternate timeline, type thing, where they have to do this and then they go back to their timeline and everything's fine and the superheroes are being superheroes. Cool. It's an interesting concept. It's kind of like, back when Batman and Superman would always fight and things of that nature in the animes and in the movies and the comic books and things like that. It was just like those moments were cool for just a short time, but they went back to being heroes, right? I mean, and then it's kind of like the Suicide Squad, right? They're the heroes for now, and then they become the anti-heroes again later. I don't know. I mean, like, I was looking for that. But anyway, back to the live service thing. I just don't get it. They're just trying to find a way to stretch these games out that don't need to be stretched out. Why? I don't get it. They've done this with so many games, not just Rocksteady, but just so many games in this release cycle of the past like 5 to 6 years have been like this. They don't need to be live service. They just need to be straightforward games. Games like God of War, games like The Last of Us, games like that, they work fine just as they are. They don't need to be more than that. Dead Space remake, Resident Evil 4, they don't need to be live service. They're fine with just being a game. That's okay. Anyway, that really irritated me. And again, I said in my note, one of my notes was, I don't like the story premise, but that's not true exactly. I like the idea, but I don't like the premise, meaning I don't like the fact that I don't like the direction they went with it, right? They just barbarically killed the Justice League and made them seem like mustache twirling villains. I don't like that. That was weird. It didn't show like there was no uniqueness to it, right? It didn't seem like, okay, like I remember in Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? When they were depicting, you know, the world after Superman went rogue, right? That was dark, man. It was awesome. You know what I mean? It was scary and it was awesome, right? And then Superman really had great motivation to go that way, right? In this game, they're mind controlled. I hate it. It's kind of like the mind control thing is very similar to the whole time travel thing where they can erase everything with time. I hate that concept. It just drives me nuts after a while because they just try to, you know, make it. Anyway, so they brainwashed him, mind controlled him. Cool. I don't like it. It was just dumb. I mean, and then the Suicide Squad had no uniqueness. They all used guns and flew around and were all the same. Nobody had any unique characteristics from what I saw outside of their appearance. The game just needed, I don't know, I didn't like the story. It seemed like a good idea on paper, and then they finished it and realized it was a bad idea. Does that make sense? And I don't know, I didn't like it. And then the whole game just felt corny overall, very corny. I didn't like the look, I didn't like the story, I didn't like anything. The only thing that didn't feel corny was the cutscenes. They felt high quality, they felt like they were well done. The voice acting, the face animations, everything felt really like it was a high production from that standpoint. Then you get into the game, it doesn't feel anything like that. It doesn't feel anything like that, and it's frustrating. And then why is the whole game outside? SkillUp brought this in his video, and I found that very interesting because I didn't notice it until he mentioned it. But the whole game is outside. From all the gameplay I've seen, it's all outside on rooftops, flying around, just doing everything outside, which from what I remember, the Arkham games were like that a little bit, but there was a lot of inside elements, right? Especially in Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, there was outside moments where you're doing stuff outside, like stealth missions or whatever, and then you go inside and fight the bad guys too and whatnot. It was cool. It was like a good mix between both. And the Suicide Squad, 98% of the game seems outside with a couple of inside fights or inside elements. I would have rather them had made Metropolis so much smaller. And again, this is the same thing with Starfield. Same exact concept. Why do they need to make the game feel so big when they don't have to? They can literally give the illusion of the game being big, but make it small and make it more focused on the quality aspect of it. I just don't get it. Anyway, so I don't get why the game was all outside. That was weird. I would have rather have had a more on-rail story. I talked about that already. And then also, again, I'm going back to the flying thing. Why is the game not more grounded? It would have been more fun if they were in the streets fighting and maybe there was some elements where they could jump higher or something like that, you know, some of the characters. But Harley Quinn, why is she flying around? Why is King Shark flying around like he's in the water in the air? Why is Captain Boomerang not using boomerangs? He's using a sniper rifle. I thought that was Deadshot. I did not think that was Captain Boomerang. I don't know, like their decision making with a lot of this stuff. Why the game wasn't more grounded, why the game wasn't more focused on the characters' individual characteristics, I don't get it. It was just very frustrating. But again, the one thing is that frustrates me about this more than anything, all these notes I made and all these negative things I just talked about, is the game has so much potential to be great. It has so much potential to be great because A, it's Rocksteady. They make fantastic games and they have so far. And the second thing is that it visually doesn't look as bad as people are talking about. I really do feel like that people have cherry picked and like kind of picked footage that doesn't look good. And yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look as polished and as clean as the original Arkham series. But again, it's one of those things that's like the cutscenes I've watched, they look great. The facial animations, the voice acting, the coloring, it looks great in all the cutscenes. But the moment you get into the game, it looks like absolute crap. Crap. It looks terrible. It looks terrible. And I don't get it. Because again, the idea is not bad. The idea is not bad, and the visuals aren't bad. I mean, Kevin Conroy was freaking great, apparently. I mean, like I didn't watch any footage of Batman in terms of, you know, the fight scenes or his full voice acting dialogue. But from the few things I've seen, Kevin Conroy absolutely nailed it as Batman again. I don't know. It's just like, oh man, this game has tons of potential, but they ruined it. It's already dead. It's already a dead game. It's not going to go anywhere. So that's it. Suicide Squad is done. They've murdered themselves.